Todd, it's Kyle, it's Dan, it's a Wednesday, and the Toronto Blue Jays are back, baby. What a start to the season. Well, let's just forget about Monday. But what a start to the season. And Max Scherzer, Furzy, he's already earned whatever pennies the Jays are paying him.
6 innings strong, Toolsy, in his season debut, 4 punch-outs. And unfortunately, Jays fans are going to need every inning of Max Scherzer because the guy that we spent more time talking about this offseason could potentially be lost for the season. And you hate to see it for Cody Ponce. Looks strong through 2 1/3 innings. But I had no idea that he was married to George Kittle's sister, by the way. So How did you guys bury that lead?
He was in attendance. Kittle was there.
What Cody was doing, all offseason, how he was going to stabilize this rotation. But you look at what the Jays pitchers have done, and hey, tip your hat to them. They showed tremendous strikeout potential against some of the bottom lineups in the league. And we'll see if they can carry that momentum forward. I know everybody is counting down the days, hours, and minutes until they have a chance to exact a measure of World Series revenge in the not-so-distant future.
Todd Scherzer was brought in to eat some innings at some point, maybe provide leadership on the bench, maybe towards the end of the season utilize his arm more. That whole plan is flipped now. How do you think it's going to affect someone of his age and the amount of miles he has on the odometer going through the season, knowing they can't really leave anything in reserve given their current situation?
They're going to have to be judicious, in my opinion, with his usage, Kyle. I can't see him being a guy they're going to let throw 100-plus pitches on a regular basis. So when you look at the workload he commanded while he's still getting stretched out early in the season, I feel like that's the kind of pitcher he's going to be for them going forward. If he can give you 5 strong, hold the opponent to 3 earned runs or less, show a little bit of zip on that fastball and some of his breaking stuff, that's what the Jays are going to need to kind of stabilize the rotation. I haven't seen an updated timeline, and you guys might know a little better than me when we can anticipate Shane Bieber rejoining the rotation. But I do believe the Jays are going to try and trot out a 6-man rotation if they can, and realize that, hey, it's all about keeping these guys healthy and make sure that they're peaking, not in the month of April or May, but that when they're playing meaningful, high-leverage baseball deep into September and hopefully October as well, that this staff is hitting its stride when it matters most.
The Ponce situation stinks, right? Here's why when it happened is best for Jays fans. It's like you walk through first class on the way back to your economy class seat, but you don't sit there. So you don't know what the first class is like. And that's what the Cody Ponce situation was like. We don't know what the first class is like because we never sat there. So we don't know what we're missing.
So it's better never to have tasted that fruit of victory than have Cody Ponce go out there, twirl a no-hitter in his Jays debut.
Correct.
Jays fans go, what could have been? No, maybe you're right. I think that, when these injuries happen early in the year, there's never a great time for a guy that they expected to carry the load in one capacity or another. But Jays fans clearly can't be that disappointed, that disgruntled about an unknown commodity who logged a grand total of 7 outs so far this season.
Yeah, it was a bit difficult, but the J starters are technically 4-0-1 as far as strong performances go, because that has to be labeled a no contest, I would think, given the way he went out. Do you think that the way he stumbled off the mound on a pitch only a couple of pitches before that one has anything to do with it? Did he perhaps tweak something then?
You wonder what was going on with the footing more than anything else. If it was an isolated incident and a freak accident, you go, okay, things like this happen on a playing field all the time. But to your point, Kyle, the fact that he fell off the mound earlier and then lost his footing again, maybe the mounds are different when you're playing in the Far East compared to Major League Baseball, and Cody Ponce needed to adjust to life as a North American starting pitcher. But either way, you hate to see it. And while you thought it was going to be something minor, I know the reports haven't been promising, and you have to kind of anticipate the worst at this point.
Rumor is it might have been a new pair of cleats. Cleats might have been the problem. And
you got to get those spikes leveled out, Toolsy. I mean, you got to get somebody to make sure that they're the proper distance, that you're not sticking in the dirt prematurely, and that you're able to move on the diamond in a timely and orderly capacity.
Or just wear like the trainer shoes. Wear some New Balance out there with no cleats.
New Balance, Asics. You want him to go full flat bottoms? Can you see him going out there pitching in Sambas, like an indoor soccer shoe from Adidas back in the day? Would that have been a better fit?
Some hookahs. You have to be impressed, though, with the Jays offense. I talked to Keegan this morning, and they picked up exactly where they left off last year, where all hands on deck. Vladdy, you don't need to hit a home run. We got you.
Kazakamoto as well. I mean, hasn't had much of a learning curve, at least through the first few games. It's going to be interesting to see how pitchers around the league adjust when they get a little bit more on tape. But when your alphas in the lineup are producing, and that's what the Jays are going to need, whether it's George Springer, who started the season, with a little bit in terms of production total bases, the batting average doesn't leave anyone brimming with confidence. We know what Vladdy is. But here, guys, I think where Jays fans have to take a bit of solace is knowing that Bo Bichette has already been booed as a member of the New York Mets, and we're not even a week into the 2026 season.
Yeah, and he's been booed while he's been at the plate, and he's been kind of booting the ball around it. Well, not so much booting the ball around in the infield, but he's been throwing wide a lot, and it seems like he's having some trouble adjusting there. Luckily for him, he's playing in one of the most forgiving markets in all of professional sports.
For sure. New York media doesn't really pay much attention to paid superstars that may be underperforming, even if it's over the course of 3 innings. Thankfully for Bo, though, his week hasn't gone nearly as poorly as it has for CB Buckner and the introduction of the ABS system. Look, we should all try and apply to be Major League Baseball umpires. If you can just call guys out when they clearly hit first base, and when you have opposing managers that are looking across the diamond at each other and biting their lips to keep from laughing, it tells us all we need to know. And what we can only imagine is that somewhere out there in his retirement, Angel Hernandez is the one getting last laugh over all of us.
My favorite part about Buckner's season so far was the missed first base when the guy stepped directly onto the middle of the bag yesterday, thereby proving at no point is he paying attention wherever he is on the field. It's not
Kyle,
just behind the plate.
It makes me feel a lot better about berating slow pitch softball umpires for our co-ed leagues who never got out behind the plate and would miss the most obvious calls. If they can do it at the major league level, they can no doubt do that on a Tuesday night with a 9:15 first pitch in the Las Vegas Park District.
And we also learned the ABS system can't be called upon when a position player comes in to pitch.
Which is interesting in its own right. I'm hoping that it's Major League Baseball's way of just speeding things up, because if a position player is out there, do we really have to worry about balls and strikes, assuming it's an 8, 9, 10 plus run deficit? But an interesting quirk nonetheless, for whatever reason that they've decided to incorporate. No idea what Major League Baseball is doing half the time, but this one may take a little bit of explanation for me to understand why.
We have to dive into the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll be talking Jays all season, but the Maple Leafs finally got headlines this week because they gassed their GM. And I don't think it caught anyone by surprise, but the Jays, the Leafs are in a free fall, and now it's trying to clean up the mess.
Does the timing of it feel odd, though? Is this something that the Leafs, if they had their wishes, could have kept under wraps until the end of the season? Or do you feel it was necessitated by the Golden Knights firing Bruce Cassidy and the Jays? Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. That the Leafs wanted to scramble to try and get their front office in order and maybe make a more aggressive push to land one of the bigger names out there at the head coaching spot. I just figured, given the timing of it going into the Radko Gudas revenge game against the Ducks, that there was going to be something that broke from a Maple Leafs team trip to Disneyland, that Brad Treliving decided to fight Goofy. He went after Mickey, and that was why they'd had enough, more so than the abomination that the team has become, the way they handled the offseason and what they weren't able to do at the trade deadline as well.
Well, if you've ever actually eaten at a Boston Pizza recently, you'll know that it was never going to be a relationship that lasts, because apparently the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Because Boston Pizza started out great. Now I wouldn't be caught dead eating there myself. You think Craig Berube's next for this team? Because it does seem like by starting at the top, they are committing themselves to a full and total rebuild here.
If this team believed that they were going to have a chance to make the postseason, they would have fired Craig Berube about 15, 20 games ago. It maintained that he was able to keep the status quo for this team. I think Berube becomes the first casualty. I know we don't have the proverbial Black Monday in the National Hockey League the same way we do in the NFL, but I have to imagine Berube's days are numbered. As soon as this season comes to an end, he's going to be looking for work somewhere else, and it's going to be a total overhaul for what this Leafs team wants to do. But I don't think it's a quick fix by any stretch of the imagination. And for people who believe that, a decade run of playoff appearances is suddenly going to have that script flip going into next year, I'm not sure where you start. The Atlantic Division is better than what it was when the Leafs were kind of starting their ascent with the proverbial core four. And this may take a little bit longer to try and figure out who the Leafs want to build around, what their data-centric front office is going to look like. And maybe there's a general manager in, say, Pittsburgh who'd be a good fit to try and help this Maple Leafs rebuild.
I think the Leafs should take what I keep suggesting for suggesting for Tim Hortons. They have an ad campaign where the whoever's in charge of it says, "We messed up. We tried too much. It didn't work. We're starting from scratch." And I think that's what the Leafs kind of need to do is talk to their fan base, say, "You know what? We got away from our roots. No one cared about this team, and we listened, and we're gonna make that right."
I'm just hoping that we can get a letter from someone in the front office that'll rival what Chris Jury's done in New York, saying that it's a retooling, not a rebuild. And that's how the Maple Leafs are going to go about fixing things. But in my opinion, the roster construction just isn't there. I mean, you look at the blue line, and there are major reservations about most of these guys being able to elevate their play. In my opinion, you don't have any defenseman that's capable of being a true top pairing guy. Let's see what they elect to do with Austin Matthews and William Nylander, if they can reconcile and those two want to be the face of the organization going forward. But I think there's a lot of hard questions that are going to have to be asked around that organization and how they want to try and proceed, whether it's ripping things down to the studs or believing that they have a couple pieces on that roster that they feel can be cornerstones going forward. And maybe it becomes William Nylander and Matthew Nye's team sooner rather than later.
Surely, though, this team does need to aim towards the studs a little bit because it seems like this retooling thing's been going on for, I don't know, was it 60 years now or so, where they just keep patching the drywall and they patch the drywall and they move this in. And then the way the Marner thing was handled in the offseason, I don't know. You mentioned the defensive core. They could throw Cody Ponce back there and he'd have the fourth best footwork on the entire line. But it just, I know they kind of hamstrung themselves by giving away so many draft picks and stuff, but I think what Dan said is probably wise. They need to almost swallow their pride for a couple of years here and take the L and just really try and rebuild the future of this hockey team.
How about
You
this, guys? They have like a Maple Leafs idol. So they let all fans into the arena who have never had the money to go to a Leafs game. They have a little tabulator thing and they bring each player up one by one. Do we keep this guy? And if you get 60% of the vote, they keep you. I think it would be, I would watch.
I would too.
What is the fan base's patience up there in terms of the overall attendance, the corporate sponsorships, and everything?
Oh, no one
else?
cares. No one cares right this
That's,
year. I bet the
it
Leafs.
feels like it's a pretty apathetic fan base on the whole, and this just kind of became the boiling point for a team that wasn't really headed in the right direction. Felt like it was a roster that was flawed, and you can't make the excuses. Oh well, we just ran into the Tampa Bay Lightning or the Florida Panthers, and that's why we were the third best team in the Atlantic. I mean, you go through the pecking order right now. If we expect Florida to be back next year when they get healthier, they're not going away. Tampa's not going away. Montreal is only heading in one direction. The Buffalo Sabres resurgence is officially upon us. I thought the Bruins rebuild would take a little bit longer. That hasn't been the case. I mean, maybe the saving grace for the Maple Leafs is they at least have goalies that don't want to tap their shoulder and miss one of the highest leverage games of the entire season or lay down against the Florida Panthers earlier this week. So maybe the Leafs are in a better position than the Ottawa Senators, something I wouldn't have said a couple weeks ago.
Todd, to address what you said about the fan base there too, if you look back to last season when it was a very good Maple Leafs team, they played well the entire season, no long losing streaks, and they pushed the Florida Panthers harder than any other team in the playoffs. They were booed mercilessly off the ice, and then they ran their second banana superstar out of town, more or less, and that's when the team was good. So you can only imagine what things are like now when this team is floundering and somewhat hopeless.
Maybe the entire city has become a baseball town first and foremost. They've shifted all of their energies towards the Toronto Blue Jays trying to win a World Series, and everyone will forget about the Maple Leafs this entire summer as they try and figure out where they went wrong, how they can fix it, and how long a rebuild will actually take.
Who's the leading candidates to take over for Treliving?
I mean, it's a great question, and you have to think that when you look around the league, that maybe Doug Armstrong is somewhat attractive, knowing that he's going to cut his ties and be out there on the market. But I wonder if the Leafs want a guy that's already established, if they want to head in a different direction. You've seen some of the NHL insiders report that Peter Chiarelli could be one of the guys that's up there. This is a team that I think has to figure out what direction they want to go to. And I'm not sure that Pelly's comments yesterday saying that he's not a scout and then rattling off players by name does them any service in any capacity. But what they've done so far isn't working. And with a salary cap that's climbing and what looks to be a pretty uninspiring UFA class, they're going to have to figure things out and really ask the hard questions. Again, do I think firing Brad Treliving was a bad idea? Absolutely not. Was I a little bit surprised by the timing of it? maybe. I didn't expect it to come with 8 games left in the season. Figured it could have happened closer to the deadline, but who knows? It could give the Leafs the jump start that they need on a search to replace the general manager and the head coach. The question becomes, which position do they want to fill first? You think it makes sense to bring in a GM and a coaching candidate he likes, instead of having the potential where those two guys, two of the preeminent figures in the organization, were to bump heads if it wasn't brought in a head coach after the general manager.
Todd, you sort of halfway answered my next question for you, but do you think that this team will push to get these decisions done early to start this turnaround, like immediately in the offseason, maybe during the playoffs or something like that, to get the fan base's enthusiasm repositioned going into next year? Or do you think they're going to make this a slow and patient process?
I hope that they've done their due diligence. And the reason that they parted ways with Treliving now is because they have someone in mind that they're able to make an offer to as soon as those opportunities present themselves. You look at some of the very capable head coaching candidates that are out there, whether they want to go a little bit of a younger direction, if they want to try and take a veteran coach. Is it Peter DeBoer? Is it Bruce Cassidy? Do we see Peter Laviolette return behind the bench? I mean, so many different directions that they can go. And I think you're benefited by trying to make this move sooner rather than later so you can get ahead of the competition and instead allowing some of these other organizations that are going to find themselves in very similar spots to kind of get a leg up and make a more compelling case if there's a name that they feel is a quick fix.
And if you're thinking, why don't they get someone to take over both roles? That has not been done. A GM coach since Mike Keenan, 2002, 2003 with the Florida Panthers.
I have to imagine in this day and age how analytically driven some of these teams are, Toolsy, and some of the responsibilities, that would be the ultimate mistake. If you're going to try and bring a guy in to have him wear two hats with some of those expectations. It felt like, listening to some of the comments coming out of Leafs camp, that they may want to add another layer if they bring in a president of hockey operations. And we go back and we look to try and figure out who should wear the blame for this. How big a finger do we point at Brendan Shanahan and the situation that he's created and all of this mess that he's left everybody else in this organization to try and sort out?
It's a fair point, Todd, because to some degree, Treliving was only here for 3 years and he did inherit something of a mess. But again, he did nothing to make it any better. So
No.
off she goes.
It is the way of the world, especially when you're in one of the leading hockey markets across the globe, that it's put up or shut up. And Leafs fans have every right to be frustrated with a season that never really even got started this year, let alone saying it got off the rails.
But if you want entertainment, how about Mike Keenan reprises that role in Toronto?
Bring it.
Let's have a day, boys.
Let's do it, gents.
Thanks, Todd.